Hey guys, new series called Strong Groups, Strong Stocks. What I'm going to do in each weekly video is show you a couple of strong areas of the market and then notable stocks, preferably ticking many of the CAN-SLIM criteria, basing nicely, cup and handles, VCPs, flags, Darvis boxes, all of that good stuff. Going to be showing you it on the Market Smith charts. They are today's video sponsor. There's a discounted trial available in the comments below if you are interested. So the three areas, the three groups that we're going to be going through today are solar, semis and Chinese related stocks. And then in each of those areas I've got three stocks to be showing you. So let's start off with solar, and I've got the TAN ETF loaded. Now if you haven't watched Tony Seber's YouTube videos on clean energy disruption that is taking place, I would highly encourage you to do that. What I like here from a cause and effect relationship is there's potentially a very large flag building here in TAN, which is the solar ETF. So that is an ETF made up of a bucket of solar stocks, if you like. You can see that it's building higher lows as well. We got some nice shakeout demand tails, structural higher lows building here. You got some nice volume coming through. I'll drill this down onto the daily time frame in a minute. You've got the RS line turning up, and then you've got individual solar stocks looking very interesting. What I also like is the group has a history of being able to run and run well. You can see the move off of the COVID lows back in 2020 was encapsulated by the 50 the 50-day, which is this red line that you see here, which is the 10-week. So let's just go down to the daily chart now. As I look at TAN here, and this is true with some of the other areas I'm going to show you, especially semis, you can see it's had a really good last six sessions or so. See how it's kind of powered up here, and we've seen a lot of volume moving into some of the solar stocks I'm going to be showing you. So on a short-term basis, this looks a little bit extended to me. So what I would ideally like to see for the ETF and the individual stocks as well is just a orderly, healthy pullback, tighten up. So with TAN, maybe it holds around $80, tightens up here, then you get this shorter term or smaller cup and handle forming. I like the volume that's been coming through of late as well. So it just pulls back these key moving averages, then play catch up in there as well, and looking for that to happen with the individual solar stocks. So let me show you a couple of them. The first one is going to be CSIQ. This is Canadian solar. So we'll just start off here on the daily chart, and then I'll zoom out to the weekly chart, show you what it is I'm looking at. Look at this volume coming through in the last couple of weeks. This is very, very impressive. Call this bullish synchronicity as well, where you get widespread candlesticks, opening near the low of the bar, closing strong near the high of the bar. Now clearly, on a short-term basis, running into this overhead resistance, needs to pull back, structural high-low, potentially set up a trigger bar on the moving averages. Then when you take a look for those CAN-SLIM criteria, you can see last two quarters, triple-digit earnings coming through. You've got sales going from 15 to 62 to 57, and then take a look at the estimates for the next couple of years as well, with the guidance up as well. So really, really nice. See how it's building these high lows here, potentially building a very large base. So for me, it's just watching and waiting for a optimal pivot to form. In the case here, it could be around $40 in the low $40, but solar is certainly an area of the market that I'm very much focused on. Array Technologies as well, so another solar stock. Take a look at the sales, 19%, 116, 117 to 3%. Then take a look at the earnings coming through, minus 85%, up to 50, up to 300%. These RS lines turning up. Higher quality growth fund initiated a position in Q3 of 2022, added in Q4 of 2022, building high lows on the weekly chart, building a decent sized base in here, so you kind of get VCP flag type action. Take a look at the estimates for the next couple of years as well. Go down to the 1 hour chart. Similar in terms of what I'm seeing. Solar stocks have had a very good week or so, even kind of week and a half or 2 weeks. Look at the volume coming through, but short term extended, running into this overhead resistance. So we'd now like to see it just pull back and then form a mid-ish pivot is how I'd be thinking about this. Potentially a mid pivot if it can tighten up in here on some of these key moving averages. Then if you've gone through that model chart database, you'll see what I'm looking for in terms of those trigger bars to form. But Array Technologies looking very interesting. Then a China one, and I'm going to show you some Chinese stocks a little bit later on, is JKS. So potentially a double whammy here in terms of China stocks looking very strong, and then also a Chinese related solar stock. So take a look at the volume coming through, really good move, but short term extended here, so could potentially form a lower pivot and or a mid pivot in the mid to high 50 area. Take a look at the estimates coming through with the forward guidance up as well. Go on to the weekly chart, big old base potentially forming here. So I like to think of this as causality. Bigger the base, invariably the bigger the effect. The stock has a history being able to break out and run pretty well as well. See, it was building higher lows in here. See how the volume was drying up. Take a look at the earnings, take a look at the sales, hitting a lot of cylinders. So that there is a very key area of the market that I'm focused on if the stocks can set up. Another area, which is going to be the second area in this video, is semiconductors. So similar to the S&P 500, potentially a head and shoulders bottoming pattern going on. So I'll show you SMH here on the weekly chart to begin with. So left shoulder, this then being the head, this then being the right shoulder. You've got volume drying up nicely, and last week you can actually see a nice pop up in volume closing on the high of the week. Very good to see, and you're seeing some decent action in individual semiconductor stocks as well. Take a look at this RS line turning up. Go down to the daily chart. Here's the left shoulder, so left shoulder, here's the head, here's potentially the right shoulder forming. See how the volume is drying up constructively, and then you get a few nice volume footprints coming through on a short-term basis, rallying into this overhead resistance. We'd now like to see it just pulling back in terms of SMH, just pulling back in, structural higher low, finding supportive action around a clustering of key moving averages that you have in here. So higher low forming here can tighten up like this. That would look very constructive indeed, especially if the individual individual semiconductor stocks can do something similar. So let me show you some of the ones which are high on my radar. You probably haven't heard of a couple of them, which is always good. So the first one is AEHR. Just keep this one on the daily chart. So you can see here the estimates coming through for the next couple of years. 2023 plus 43% with the forward guidance up. 2024 plus 85% with the forward guidance up. Some really nice volume footprints coming through in here, especially to the most recent earnings reaction. And then look at the subsequent buying as well. The demand coming through. Now clearly short-term basis extended here, isn't it? So it needs to pull back down, potentially then carve out a cup and handle type pattern. If price can pull back down, find supportive action, at least on the 10 EMA, I'd like to see the 10 EMA there at a minimum for I'm targeting it, and then that trigger bar, so really tight bar coming in, sitting on one or more key moving averages, volume below the 30-day average as well. This is kind of trigger bar type action in here. This kind of bar here, really tight, volume drying up. That's what I'll be looking for. So can it just pull back down, start putting in some nice high lows, volatility contracts, all of that good stuff you already know about. But this one here, high on my radar. ASML, interesting tech if you want to go and read up about this company. So what I like here is the stocks in the context of a phase 4 decline. Now phase 4 declines do not last forever. They turn into phase 1 accumulation bases, then phase 1 accumulation bases turn into a phase 2 uptrend. So Wyckoff hat on here. Potentially this phase 1 base, some nice spring type action going on here. So this is your base in here, this is your Wyckoff facey spring. You then go and build a higher low, so this is a spring type action in here. And then commonly you will see in phase D of a Wyckoff phase 1 accumulation base, you will see a cup and handle, you see a VCP, you'll see a Davos box, you will see a flag. So you're more kind of classic breakout patterns. Then take a look at the blue volume coming through. This is really good to see. So I call these volume footprints, really good to see. Now short term basis, as you were seeing with SMH, the semiconductor ETF, looks a little bit extended here, doesn't it? So am I going to be buying up here? No, watching and waiting for a pullback. The pink line is the 10 EMA, the green line is the 21 EMA. So into that vicinity, pull back, start putting in these high lows, nice and tight, volatility contracts, all of that good stuff. Take a look at this RS line turning up. This one here on my radar, and then finally LSCC is the next one. So similar, breaking out of this. So here's a phase 4 decline. Here's then your phase 1 base that forms like this. So this is classic kind of phase 1 base, now breaking out of the phase 1 base, some decent volume coming through in here. Volume is now quietening down, we like that. You've got 3 high quality growth funds either initiating or adding to a position, 1 marginally decreasing their position. Now short term basis looks a little bit extended here, as you're seeing with the solar stocks. This is why they're on my radar now. I'm liking the strength that I'm seeing come in. So now I want to see those higher lows form, price volatility contract. So if this could pull into say around about $70 and then find support around the 1021 EMA and then just start tightening up, something like this, you could then see how a cup and handle pattern forms in here. Could look very interesting. Take a look at the estimates, take a look at the forward guidance for last year, this year, hitting on a lot of those CAN-SLIM criteria in terms of high earnings, high sales, after tax margins accelerating in the prior 4 quarters as well. So LSCC looks very interesting. Now let me go and show you China. So I'm going to show you KWeb to do that. So similar to some of these semiconductor stocks, we can see clear phase 4 decline here, and then we can see this phase 1 basing pattern form. Okay, this phase 1 accumulation base here. Then you get your classic Wyckoff facey spring coming through in here, and now you can start to see this cup and handle type pattern forming. It actually then broke out of this flag here. See how this RS line is turning up? Now it's just sitting there. If I just pull that one back out, See how it's just sitting here on this pink line? This is the 1021 EMA. So this is looking fairly constructive, as are a lot of the individual Chinese stocks. So if this is going to be a phase 1 base and then it's going to power up into a phase 2 uptrend, China is very, very interesting area of the market, and the individual stocks look pretty interesting. So let me show you a couple of them. The first one is PDD. Very good estimates coming through for the next couple of years. Triple digit earnings, sales accelerating, margins accelerating as well in subsequent quarters. RS lines very strong. Take a look at the volume footprints. Really, really nice to see these volume footprints here. And then what I'm looking at is this high type flag to form. It's quasi cup and handle as well. Depends how this one kind of shapes up, but it's starting to find supportive action on the 10 EMA being this pink line in here. So what I would be looking for is continued tightness around the 10 EMA in the high 90s for a pivot to form, maybe around $100. But if this can shape up over the next week or so, looks very interesting. Volume is low on a relative basis. It just needs to continue to tighten, put in that trigger bar around the 10 EMA. Another one is GOTU. This is to do with education base. There's some other strong ones like an EDU, Chinese education related ones. That's a little bit hard to see because of how this chart is kind of shown, but it's a high type flag pattern. Let me actually show you it on the weekly chart. So you see the volume footprints coming through. Bullish synchronicity, really, really powerful. So this being the flagpole here, then look how it's starting to tighten up. This one could look very, very interesting if it continues to tighten up, and then we get some trigger bar action forming. Let me get on to the 60-minute time frame. So what I'd be looking for is continued tightness to form, these continued structural high lows to be coming in, something like this. Obviously then looking at on the daily chart, I like using the 1 hour chart as well, but looking for price action to basically do something like this, where it gets super duper, that's the technical term, tight, continues building these high lows for this flag type pattern. So GOTU is one that I'm watching very closely. And then finally, I'm going to show you one which is to do with vaping related. So it says tobacco is to do with vaping, vaping related vaping products. When I walk around, it's surprising how many teenagers I see vaping instead of smoking. So I think it's terrible for your health, but I think it's a very, very big market indeed. So I don't like the concept of smoking or vaping, but it is what it is. This stock is potentially selling up. Again, hard to see here on the daily chart, but potential high type flag forming. I'll show you this on the 60-minute chart. Volume drying up. RS very, very impressive. Stock's gone from 90 cents to 306 there, and now starting to build these high lows. Let me show you it on the weekly chart. So similar that you were seeing with a lot of these Chinese stocks, have gone through these phase 4 declines into, that was a bad arrow, wasn't it, into these phase 1 bases. Now starting to power out of these phase 1 bases. Look at the volume footprints coming through, and now starting to tighten up in the context of potential high tight flags. Show it on the 60-minute chart. You can see this flag type pattern starting to form in here, so it just needs to look perfect as per my criteria for what I'm looking for. So where it gets really, really tight in there, and then potentially looking to target that. So that's it, guys. I will wrap it up there. Hopefully you like this new series. Going to do it around about once a week or so. I'll show you three or four different groups in the market and or themes that I think are strong, and then I'll show you a couple of stocks within those industry groups that I think are strong. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.